Yeah, I think so. I mean, as I said, I came into it through philosophy. So I think the understanding the natural world, the relationship between the human being, the natural world, the extent to which we've altered the natural world, removed ourselves from it, and yet are still absolutely dependent upon it every day. We like to believe that we're somehow separate, but we whether we like to believe it or not, we're barely holding on here. Change any any of the variables, and just like the Joshua tree, we will rapidly vanish. So yeah, the connection is the mystery of the Mojave Desert. It's a really special place. It's right in the back area of Los Angeles, and climate, our relationship with the environment, and people. Both books, chronicle earlier generations of people, Native American and white settlers as well. Their relationship to the land, and how it's all just changed, how we've ruined it, but also how it's always been changing. And as we destroy it, well, it's still there. Those mountains of the Sierra Nevada are still going to be there, and that rock art is still going to be on the wall. So yeah, I don't know.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, the author podcast, where we get to meet amazing authors from around the world. And today's going to get a little yucky. I'm just going to tell you off the bat, it's going to get a little bit yucky, but we're going to have a great conversation about a great new book that you need to fall in love with. Another amazing author that you need to fall in love with as well. Lots of great stuff to talk about. Barret's on the show today, and I'm excited to see where our conversation goes. Barret, welcome to Living the Next Chapter.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, appreciate you having me. It's great to be here.
So from a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being extreme, how much yuck are we going to have today, you and I?
How much yuck? I don't know. Hopefully we get to like an 8 or a 9. I don't know.
Ooh.
I hope we get up there, yeah.
If you're playing at home, along at home, we're going to get really yucky. I like this. Barret, tell everybody where you are, Barret. Where you live?
I'm in Los Angeles, Southern California.
There you go.
Yeah.
Born, raised, is that where you're from?
Yeah, born and raised in SoCal, San Diego. Kind of lived a number of places around the U.S. Came back to SoCal a few years ago, closer to family. Kind of like it here. Good. And yeah, living in Los Angeles right now.
Okay. So on top of writing, what else occupies your time?
Ooh, writing. I work at a brewery downtown that kind of pays the bills, and then I do a few little other jobs on the side. So yeah, kind of hustling. Writing in my spare time, and yeah, don't really have like a straightforward career at the moment. Which is, for better or worse, kind of cool. Gives me a lot of time to write.
You did mention to me in the past that this brewery is quite popular and people will know about it. Good place to go have a nice drink.
Yeah. Yeah, should I say what it is?
Yeah. Sure. If you want. If they come see you,
it's a big
bring get your book autographed.
Yeah, it's a big cool brewery. It's Angel City Brewery downtown. Yeah, I actually had the book release party there. If you Googled me, you'd find it. So yeah, it's a nice big brewery and a gorgeous 100-year-old warehouse downtown LA, kind of the historic core of Los Angeles. And yeah, if you land at like LAX, you just flew in from Sweden, you Google brewery, you might be talking to me 45 minutes later or 5 hours later, depending on how bad traffic is, to go those 8 miles.
Do you get a free copy of the book with your purchase, or does that work together at all?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, we have a really good conversation. Okay, I determined you must read this book. Yeah, I'm pulling it out of my backpack, throw it at you.
Autographed? Can we push even further?
We can do that. Yeah, it's been done.
Oh wow. Okay, well we might charge for the autographs. We gotta make money somehow.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, yeah, let's say to the first 2 or 3 customers that find me and say the word yuck, I'll do my best.
Oh, there's a little secret word there. Okay, good. Awesome. People are like, why does everybody say yuck to Barret? Like,
they don't know who I am. They just...
yeah, that's the reason. That's the reason. I like it. So for you as an author, I'm always curious how an author gets to be where you are. Like, what was the early fascination with writing and telling stories? Where did all this come from?
Yeah, I wonder that myself a lot. I grew up not being a great reader, not loving books when they were assigned. Even into high school, I couldn't concentrate, didn't love reading. And then something clicked like 17, 18. I don't know what it was. But I started reading a ton. I was playing soccer at a really high level. I was like on the Olympic development program in Southern California. Some of my buddies went pro, but I had this like kind of revelation at some point. I don't know what it was, but I was like, I'm going to become a writer and not an athlete. I'm going to quit soccer. I'm just going to pursue this path. And I don't know what that was exactly, but I don't know. I've always had some kind of spiritual or philosophical like strain somewhere in the back of me, and I just wanted to write books and pursue this path that I thought might kind of like illuminate the mystery or provide fuel for people to, I don't know, explore and experience just kind of how beautiful and miraculous the world is. So kind of a noble, extreme, idealized initial foray into this disastrous path of being a writer.
So you have a nice cold bevy in one hand and a book in the other hand, another author you enjoy. What are you reading? What do you like?
Right now, what have I been reading the most lately?
Yeah.
Man, it's a good question. The new book that I'm working on is dealing with some stuff that is kind of tricky to handle, kind of verging into some kind of woo-woo, kind of spooky territory, where, it is going to be working on fiction, heavily researched, but some of the elements are kind of almost spectacular and hard to believe. So I've kind of been looking for models of books that would deal in nonfiction and also kind of the supernatural. I guess I've been reading, kind of like horror lately, honestly. If I had to throw out a name, I've been reading a classic kind of unknown English, like master horror writer from the early 20th century named Algernon Blackwood.
Ooh. That's a name.
Yeah, his story, The Willows, I've been taking a close look at, so check it out.
So there you go. We'll put a link for that in the show notes so people can come check that out as well. From what kind of elements influence you as an author besides other authors and other stories? What else? Like entertainment, movies, TV, music. What else is in your world that kind of helps shape you as an author?
Yeah, that's a good question. What has shaped me as an author? I guess I came to it through philosophy. I studied philosophy at UC Berkeley. I initially wanted to be something like a philosopher. So I came into the idea of writing through, wanting to answer, in this kind of naive way as a teenager, late teens, like, what is the meaning of life? Why are we here? Like, reading tons of existentialism, kind of typical pathway, for some philosophically inclined teen. So yeah, wanting to answer the big questions, wanting to ask big questions, wanting to explore the deepest mysteries, is kind of how I came into it. And then, I found that I didn't have really good experiences when I sat down and tried to write a fictional story. So it does kind of mesh with philosophy. In that training, I'm looking at things logically. I'm making logical arguments. I'm analyzing a problem. The way I broke into writing and initially had some success was just nonfiction, taking real material, looking at some real question, some real problem, some actual mystery, and my whatever writing chops I might have had seemed to come alive when I handled non-fictional material and wasn't trying to invent characters or scenarios so much as exploring real problems and real mysteries in the world.
So I have authors listening to the show, Barret. They're brand new to writing. They're brand new on this journey of trying to take a story and turn it into words on a page. You've done it, so you have more knowledge than they do just starting out. If I could put you up on a stage in front of a bunch of authors at like a conference or something, and you're the headliner, you're going to come and talk to authors and encourage them. Kind of, what would be your topic? What would be the main thing you'd want to share to a room full of authors eager to start?
Yeah. Tough question. I don't know. I guess I would say trust the crazy voice in the back of your mind. Whatever the craziest voices that whatever wherever you are most obsessed or haunted, whatever that thing is, that drive that you think sets you apart from everyone else. Trust that instinct and that crazy voice in the back of your mind that is, compelling you to go somewhere, explore some topic. Whatever that is, I think is probably going to be the key to your voice, your success, your individuality as a writer. I don't know. I think there's a lot, speaking from my own perspective, I think there's a lot of people that are in a rush. They want to find success. You get into a workshop. There's all kinds of advice coming from every corner. You get a lot of groupthink. Your writing, your ideas can kind of get dumbed down. If you're starting out and you want to become a writer, throw yourself out there. Throw yourself into your obsession and your passion. And don't listen to other people. Just go wherever it's taking you and worry about cleaning up the mess and refining it and, shaping it later.
Tell us more about Yuck. Where's the origin of Yuck? Everybody's more like, wait, what are you saying? Yuck is the name of the book, everybody. Yeah. So tell us the origin of the book. How did this come to be?
Yuck. How did it originate? Like in the very beginning? Well, most of my research and writing has been about the Mojave Desert for some reason. Yuck is a book about the Joshua Tree. Its technical name is Yucca brevifolia. And so having my mind kind of stuck in the desert, I was going to get married in 2020, in April 2020 in Joshua Tree. So I've been obsessed with the desert. So was my fiance. We were going to have all these people flying out to Southern California from all over the country. They're going to land in LAX and then they're going to drive 2 hours, out to the Mojave Desert. They're all going to be wondering, like, what the hell is going on here? Why are you dragging us out to this wasteland? So my thought was, hey, I'm good at research. I love this place. I actually don't know, that much about the Joshua Tree or, like this park. But everyone's obsessed with it, or, it's constantly growing. Why don't I do a little research dive? I'll come up with some like pithy little prose blocks, something poetic. Maybe it relates to love, marriage, longevity, flourishing and, and have like a complex environment, whatever. I was imagining all kinds of metaphors. When I started researching the tree, I thought I would, come up with something printed out on nice paper and give it as like a wedding favor to guests. And I started finding all kinds of crazy information. The essay was expanding rapidly, and then COVID hit and the wedding was canceled, and then the research continued. It kept getting more interesting, and then the wedding was canceled again, and so I just continued working on this thing, which eventually I decided, well, I guess this is becoming a book. How weird to just be sitting here writing a book about the Joshua Tree accidentally.
And I mentioned to you that's for me one of the albums that I love. You too, Joshua Tree. Mm-hmm. That for as a Canadian, we don't have anything similar to a Joshua Tree in Canada. Nothing like that lives in such harsh environments that the Joshua Tree exists in. So I don't know a lot about the Joshua Tree. So can you kind of educate me and maybe the listener a little bit more about how does a tree like this exist in a place like that? I don't understand how the two go together.
Yeah, I mean, people have always been, drawn to it and super fascinated by it because, you'll be, if you're going through the Mojave Desert, I mean, first of all, they're confined to, a finite region in the American West, mostly the Mojave Desert, mostly California. They touch Nevada, they touch Arizona a little bit, maybe a little bit of Utah. And if you're driving through the desert, it'll look normal. There's a bunch of creosote, sage, burr bush, whatever you want to call it, that normal scrub stuff. But you'll come over, some ridge, you reach a certain elevation, and suddenly you will see, oh my gosh, what the hell are these things? There's now for miles this forest of these trees, some of them, standing 5 to 10 to maybe 50, 60 feet tall. In the biggest, most large cases, they have been described endlessly, in the early days as grotesque. They are strange looking. They have this anthropomorphic outline, kind of a human-like shape, arms twisted. At the end of these arms, there's these branches full of daggers, these sharp pointed leaves. So yeah, the Joshua tree, it's this kind of, it's a weird anomaly on the landscape. And how does it live? Well, it lives a difficult life. I think that's one of the things to appreciate about it is it takes decades for a Joshua tree to take root, to shoot out any branches, and then survive mice and rabbits and whatever else is going to chew off those leaves. So yeah, the Joshua trees we see today are the result of decades, hundreds of years of just, slow, tough survival in a landscape that is, not very forgiving. So they're a beautiful, mysterious part of the desert landscape, crucial part of the ecosystem.
It's kind of a parallel to life.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who exist in a place that's harsh. They don't belong there. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that feeds them, nothing that sustains them, and yet they still survive, right? Like the odds are stacked against you, right? There's no way you should be here.
Yeah.
But you're still here, and I don't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's what's made the tree so popular is we're able to project, onto this thing because of its human-like outlines, so much. There's a lot of people today that identify with the Joshua tree that look to it as some kind of symbol, something sacred, and project a lot of ideas onto it. See it as something kind of metaphorical, symbolic, like you're describing. Which is cool, but as YUCK explores, if we were projecting onto it in the past, people had very different ideas about this tree and its meaning and its beauty. In previous generations, that they basically hated it and wanted to eradicate it, which is
really just get rid of the thing. Yeah,
quite in contrast to our experience today. That's what launched the book initially was. My discovery, which, I think it's been overlooked. There's a few famous quotes that some people know. But basically what I unearthed that kind of launched this thing out of, a short essay or short prose piece into something longer was this kind of sudden, buried history that I started unearthing in this research, which was essentially just like this endless, like treasure trove of Victorian vitriol, all of it, painted in the most like purple florid prose of just Victorian writers just endlessly railing against how disgusting this tree is, how it is literally, they're calling it demoniacal, infernal, describing it as monstrous, grotesque, just saying that it's unpleasantly odorous, it's fetid, ill-smelling, view it from a distance, and then on, with plenty of quotes that I don't think anyone's pulled up. That I don't know how I found all this. It was a really weird research dive that happened over a couple of weeks. But yeah, people calling for its total eradication, wipe it off the planet.
Really? Yeah,
literally just a demonic entity that deserved to die. And today people worship this thing, and the tree is the Joshua Tree National Park is the fastest growing, like in the United States. It's a constant backdrop for Instagram, film, TV commercials, and as I was finding all of this, it's just this vast reservoir of untapped hatred. I was like, wow, this shot off a lot of creative sparks because it was in extreme contrast to our attitude today.
There's some underlying climate conversations happening in YUCK as well, from your perspective, as much as this is a growing and more popularity for the Joshua tree, though there's still the fear that they might not be around forever. Is that kind of what you were finding in your research?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, it's an unfortunate fact that climate change is, predicted to severely impact this tree. I described it, you come over a ridge, you reach a certain altitude, and then suddenly there they are. It's really like that. They exist in a finite, ecological window. There's this tiny little band in which these things are known to survive. So, while there are millions, the conditions that allow them to exist are, pretty fine tuned. And so we start tweaking the environment too much.
Right.
Yeah, they might not last. So there's been a number of papers that have come out, the past 5 years that have basically predicted that they'll be extinct by the end of the century. Just pretty upsetting. And there's an ongoing battle about whether or not to give it, endangered protections as an endangered species.
So for the readers of Yuck, what is your big wish? What is your big hope for them as they pick up a copy? Like, what's your intent for us?
Well, my goal when I find something that I think, when my mind gets blown and opened, when I find something through research that I think is really interesting, I do as much research as I can. And so in an essay, a book length essay, like Yuck, I think my goal is to deliver like an experience. I want you're going to learn tons of things you don't know. You're going to be surprised. You're going to constantly be reading like, that doesn't sound right. I've never heard of that. Where is he getting this stuff? This sounds crazy. Like, and then you'll find that there's 20 pages of notes at the end of the book and it's all factual. But yeah, I think my goal in writing these books and creating these complex webs of information and these jarring juxtapositions, which is kind of what I'm always chasing is to curate information and start arranging it in a way that's constantly sort of somehow gradually revealing yet further stranger possibilities and more extreme jumps and transitions, leading to kind of an ultimate like place in the text. My goal is to just kind of wake people up and make them wonder about, kind of how strange, mysterious, and interconnected and beautiful and scary the world is. So my goal in all these books, while you're learning a lot, there's a lot about environment, climate. It's kind of a literary goal, to make people kind of wake up and appreciate the world we live in and its vastness and strangeness. Again,
no, this is not your
kind of
first,
idealistic. Sorry.
This is, yeah, no, that's good. This is not your first time as a writer getting your stories out too. Talk more. The reason I'm asking is I don't know what my listeners love when they find a new author to fall in love with, and then to know that there's more from that author that they can read. Tell us a little bit more about some of your background and the other things you've been working on as well.
Yeah, my first book that came out 2017. That was called China Lake, and that operates, in a kind of similar mode, weaving together a ton of information that you'll never have heard of. It won't sound real, and that book begins with a military base in the Mojave Desert called China Lake, not terribly far from Joshua Tree. Most people don't know it's there. They drive past it on their way to Mammoth Mountain from Los Angeles, going up the eastern side of the Sierra Nevada. If they're going to go skiing or vacationing in Mammoth, they'll drive past it. They won't know it's there. It's 1.2 million acres. That's, bigger than Rhode Island and Delaware combined. This base controls, I think, like 12% of California's airspace. If you can imagine how vast that is. It's just controlled by this extremely important, critical research and development weapons like test site that's hidden out in the Mojave by Death Valley. And what got that book started was my discovery that this military base is secretly holding on to the largest concentration of Native American rock art in the Western Hemisphere. And it's also thought to be the oldest artwork in the Americas. So there's thought to be over 1 million petroglyphs, which are, rock carvings. It's thought to be, it's thought that there's over 1 million images carved in the volcanic canyons around this base. And the overwhelming image is a bighorn sheep. So I've been out there a couple times, and if you get out into one of these canyons, it's 40 miles out there. The military escorts you out. It's intense. They search your car. They threaten you a lot. They eventually drop you out in this canyon. You walk down into it, and it is a totally sacred, Native Americans in the area, this is still the most sacred thing that exists. This is the site of their creation, and there's just hiding out there a totally vast, wild amount of this rock art that is the starting place for a crazy investigation related to climate, some government conspiracy, the California drought. So it's a really crazy environmental investigation with a big apocalyptic overtones that starts in a totally top secret military base with a ton of rock art. Should be a national park, national monument, but nobody knows it's there, and the military is just protecting it. Supposedly, they're not dropping bombs on it. These canyons are pretty well protected.
What's it like to stand in that canyon?
It's really intense. When you walk through it, people have different reactions. Some people see one of the more upsetting things you encounter is, people see the artwork as kind of infantile or childlike. Oh, like it's kind of stick figures and look at that sheep. It's like the artistic quality of like a kindergartner. Just pretty offensive. But if you imagine, this is probably being carved at night 10,000 years ago by a lone shaman. With saber-toothed cats lurking around the periphery who might have been taking substances allowing him to enter into a trance state. And it was 0 degrees outside. So I don't know what kind of art anyone is attempting these days in those conditions. And not only that, but to call it art is probably incorrect. This was a spiritual, this was a religious performance that was happening. But in any case, to answer your question, what's it like walking through there? There's a definite sense of profundity and mystery, and something extreme was going on there. This one canyon, there's several 100,000 images of bighorn sheep carved in this narrow lava hallway that runs for 1.5 miles until it drops off a 100-foot cliff. And as you walk through it, you definitely progressively, as you go down, I had the impression like, hey, I'm not really sure we're supposed to be here. We do not know what was taking place here. This is just a very sacred, ancient site. And to think, that some of these images were created, over 15,000 years ago. That's a total mystery.
The underlying thread so far between YUCK and China Lake, environmentalism, understanding climate change. This is one of your foundations for what you are and why you're here?
Yeah, I think so. As I said, I came into it through philosophy. So I think the understanding the natural world, the relationship between the human being, the natural world, the extent to which we've altered the natural world, removed ourselves from it, and yet are still absolutely dependent upon it every day. We like to believe that we're somehow separate, but we whether we like to believe it or not, we're barely holding on here. Change any any of the variables, and just like the Joshua tree, we will rapidly vanish. The connection is the mystery of the Mojave Desert. It's a really special place. It's right in the backyard of Los Angeles, and climate, our relationship with the environment, and people. Both books, chronicle earlier generations of people, Native American and white settlers as well. Their relationship to the land, and how it's all just changed, how we've ruined it, but also how it's always been changing. And as we destroy it, it's still there. Those mountains of the Sierra Nevada are still going to be there, and that rock art is still going to be on the wall. So I don't know. It's a lot of mystery out there.
It sounds like I understand. Like for me, if I was able to be there, it would be just the reverence of that space. Mm-hmm. Again, if I would feel like a Joshua tree in that canyon, in that I don't belong here. Mm-hmm. Like I shouldn't be here right now, to your point. So it's interesting how those two books kind of interconnect with each other, kind of in theme and in story.
Yeah.
Where I would just be like, like this place needs to be treasured. This place needs to be open to people to see and, participate. There's stories on those walls.
Yeah.
Right. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have paper and pen. They were writing stories as well and capturing history.
Yeah.
For the next generation to know and learn from as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. If anything, people should know that it's an absolutely sacred place and you're privileged to be there. All of these images are still completely sacred to Native American people, throughout the area. Yeah. So to even think of touching them or defacing them or, anything like that. Yeah. So approach with extreme reverence. Yeah. And thinking about the Joshua tree too. I mean, people are obsessed with it. There's so many people going out there. Another connection. There's just so much still beneath the surface, even in Southern California, where there's 20 million people, packed into this vast, built environment from Santa Barbara down to Tijuana. There's so many people. I just love finding that right in that backyard, and even underneath, the roots of those trees that so many people are walking past every day taking photos. There's still some like hidden history. I like finding them. That gets me excited when there's something overlooked and a new story to tell. And there's still so much more out there. I mean, we've only, we sit around and think we've mapped everything and dug it all up, and we have, everything under control and everything's explained. But no, I love finding a new history and something overlooked. And you just have to wonder, man, like what do we really know? How much more is out there?
And the idea that we're at the top of the chain, we're at the top of the ladder as far as knowledge and understanding, and we have the internet and we have all of this information, yet you stand in that valley and go, I know nothing. Mm-hmm. When I stand here and see what they did that many years ago with very primitive abilities and knowledge and understanding of the world, here we are boasting about how much we know, but we don't.
Yeah.
We don't know that much.
100%, right? Yeah.
Like it's a little bit arrogant, I think, in a little bit, for us to be walking around proudly, strutting around, saying what we think the world is going to be, when somebody's already written that on a wall a long time ago.
No, agree 100%. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. And take a group of people out there, take their cars away, the sun goes down. I mean, what have we lost? I mean, there's so much knowledge we've lost. The most basic stuff is like, who the hell is going to be able to survive for very long out in that environment, without their technology and their tools? Nobody. And then go from there to, whatever more potentially esoteric, knowledge earlier, tribal people might have contained, in their societies that we've lost entirely. I mean, we flatter ourselves, but what do we really know? And how much do you really know? It's always interesting.
So, Barret, you have the education, you've got the degrees, you've done your research and your study, you've been disciplined and done all of that. What does writing do for you that nothing else does? Like why you have a job, you've got life, you got everything that we do with every day, but like, what is it about writing that you keep coming back to it?
I don't know. I mean, I've talked about, finding hidden history, digging up things that have been overlooked. Yeah. That's something that drives me. I guess there's just an extreme pleasure in language, in finding something new, beginning to build sentences around it. I mean, I could spend a lot of time just constructing sentences, using language block by block, that syntax. It feels like a craft. I love words. People who know me are like, man, stop telling me about where that word came from. I don't need to know the etymology. Like, I don't need to know the history of everything, but I love to see, hey, we've taken, this is again philosophical, we've taken all this stuff for granted. This whole background, everything we're standing on, it's been built incrementally over time. And there's a history, there's a story to every single word out there. So it's an atmosphere that I love to inhabit and to construct and build within. And if you think of writing as a craft, there's craftsmen, they build furniture, they take stone, they take clay. Writing, you're working with signs and symbols, little scratches that refer to things out in the world. It's abstract. It's not a physical thing, but there's a flow you can get into where, you know, those logical blocks from the word to the sentence to the paragraph to the chapter, those things they begin to get something up off the ground that starts to levitate and take on form and structure when you start building out that world and those canyons and those arms and whatever architectural metaphor you want. Once it starts expanding and you're in the middle of it and you don't know where it's going, but you can feel that the thing's got energy and it's building. I mean, that's ecstasy, and that's great. I love that. It's hard to get there, but I love it.
My podcast is Living the Next Chapter, so I always like asking my authors kind of what is coming down the road for you. What are you excited about as from a writing perspective in the future? Like, what's coming now that Yuck's out in the world? Kind of where are you going next? What do you think?
Yeah, I have a third book that I've been working on for a while and continuing to work on it. I'm excited about it. There's a lot of continuity. It's rooted in the same place. It's got Native American rock art. It's about the environment. It's maybe wilder and weirder than anything so far. So yeah, as I said, kind of reading some horror and kind of supernatural stuff to try and figure out how can I hint at the kind of uncanny, subplot of this nonfiction story, while keeping everything factual. So I'm really excited about that. It's a tricky project. It's about a nuclear meltdown that happened in Los Angeles that no one really knows exists. The largest nuclear meltdown in U.S. history happened in L.A. and no one's ever heard of it except the people it's affected. And it's this site is at the end of the valley. If you in popular culture we say the valley girl. We're talking about the America's suburb, the San Fernando Valley, that giant, endless suburban sprawl of Los Angeles. At the end of that, at the head of the valley, there's a laboratory owned by Boeing, where this meltdown occurred in 1959, and it was literally covered up by the federal government for 20 years until a UCLA graduate student, to get back to the digging metaphor, he unearthed some boxes in this engineering library and found some really weird looking photos that had rods and lines pointed to them with words like melted blob, literally. And what he found was a hidden record of this actual nuclear reactor core meltdown in the San Fernando Valley. So that is a story that is very well known to the people it's affected, and it's a big topic at the end of the San Fernando Valley. If you look up Santa Susana Field Laboratory, you can learn about it. So this book is about a lot more than that and might only briefly pass through that story. It's about so much more, but that's kind of the tagline, the way to whet the appetite.
So if anybody's curious about climate change, the environment, the history of California and America, the people who have come before us, there's a lot of different avenues that could bring a reader into your world. Who else would be an ideal reader for your books?
That's a good question. I think it's expanded with Yuck. It's occurred to me, hey, if you like trees, if you like plants, if you like to garden, even. I mean, someone who's into plants, if you're into that national park, definitely read it. If you're into the history of Southern California, Los Angeles, you're going to find a lot of new stuff in that book. If you're into conspiracy, weird history, there's a lot of conspiracy in China Lake, some interesting stuff. Project Popeye, not a lot of people heard of that. Operation Paperclip, bringing Nazis over. Geoengineering, solar geoengineering, the idea of turning the sky white to reflect sunlight back out to space to artificially cool the planet. Weird conspiracy stuff. And yeah, if you're into like just like experimental kind of hybrid nonfiction, someone who's kind of working, at in the forefront of the essay, trying to do as much as they can with nonfiction information in a kind of experimental hybrid way. Yeah, I'm trying to push the limits of what people are expecting from nonfiction and essay writing. So yeah, doing too many things, man.
I like
Trying to
it.
do it
I
all.
love it. So, Barrett, before I wrap up with a question to end off our conversation, I have your website up while we're chatting. I got to know on the front page, I'm seeing this kind of alien type guy with he's got 3 fingers on each hand, and he doesn't look happy to see you on your website. Can you tell us a little bit about your site and kind of a little bit more about what we'll find on your website?
I'm sorry, what are you talking about? I'm not really sure what you're talking about.
On your website, I see you, your back against a wall, and there's a guy
on the about section.
Nice. The about section, yeah.
That is a photo in a coffee shop not far from my house. I think I'm standing next to Nosferatu. So yeah, I'm kind of close to some Hollywood studios. So somebody at some point bought this Hollywood prop, and the mural behind me says, "I sold my soul." As I'm standing next to Nosferatu, okay. So it seemed like a good motto for an aspiring writer, and I.
So on your website, we're going to see Yuck, China Lake, the weird, dumpster fires. What else? What are we missing there from the weird and dumpster fires?
Dumpster fires is my blog. That started in LA. I lived in an apartment building up until recently where there was like a dumpster fire outside my window in the alley every single day. So there's a massive homeless crisis in Los Angeles, and I happen to live in kind of this area, with a lot of homeless activity. So that's a blog about living in Los Angeles and Southern California history, all the things I'm always researching. You'll just find me occasionally tossing out some pretty funny, humorous. That's another thing to my writing. It's often funny. So yeah, humorous takes, quick research dives on topics around LA, and a lot of it erupting out of the miserable situation in my back alley. That's dumpster fires. And the weird is that'll give you a hint of this third book. There's a long there's a bunch of links there that will take you to about 20,000 words worth of writing. That'll give you a preview of this third book. Which is going to be really weird. It's going to be a weird book.
I love the titles of your stuff. It's great. I like it. And I didn't understand yuck until you explained the actual name for Joshua trees. That makes more sense now, which I love.
Yeah.
So for yuck, then, next time someone comes to take a picture beside a Joshua tree on their tourist trip through California, what should we know while we're standing beside this thing? Do they really smell like, can you debunk anything for us about some of these things you said that you found as what people hated about these trees so much?
Yeah, the smell, I mean, they do have a kind of a musty, slightly moldy odor, the flowers. When they do bloom, they don't bloom every year, and they might bloom, from March to May. So there is a slight odor. Maybe people in 1890 had a better sense of smell than we do, but it seems highly exaggerated, the constant groans of just the horrible smell, the fetid odor. It's weird. It's one of the mysteries of the book is why is there just so much hatred for this tree?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, we haven't touched on it yet, but yeah, I mean, that tree's going to go extinct. Most likely it's while you're standing there. Ask yourself what you can do to get involved in desert conservation, and think about how fragile and, sacred these desert lands are. People have lived on them for, tens and tens of thousands of years, as China Lake shows. So yeah, you are a temporary visitor in a fragile, beautiful landscape. And think as well, here we are sitting there really worried if these trees are going to disappear. We've tried everything possible to get rid of them. People in LA, as LA was the most advertised, city in the history of the world, what did they try and do? They tried to chop the Joshua tree down for paper. That's another big thing that the book reveals, is that the most systematic, organized attempt to wipe that tree out, because they literally did want to wipe it out, was to chop them down, get a Chinese army to drag them to a bunch of mills, boil them, and turn them into paper. So the Southern California climate paradise, the initial growth of Southern California that came through all this climate promotion, some of that was printed on these infernal trees that they were trying to wipe out at the edge of LA County. And so I would tell people, as you stand there, think about all that. Think about protecting the desert, but consider the very real possibility that these trees we're so worried about and that we think are so cute, they might outlast us. They've survived everything so far. I'm gonna bet against all odds that they survive climate change. Will we? That's the more interesting question. But do what you can for the trees and us, because we all need it.
and walk humbly in this world and realize somebody came before you.
Yeah.
And recognize that too. Put us back in the canyon at China Lake, and I love your approach to how you write, Barret, and the fact that a lot of us live life with very little thought about how our life impacts our world around us and environment. I think that authors like you are very needed right now to continue to raise this for all of us to understand. Mm-hmm. And again, to not be so proud and not be so bold to think that we have all the answers. We don't.
Yeah.
So that's why I love your approach to what you're doing. It's really amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Excellent. Yeah, everybody, all information for Barret, his great books are all there for you on the website. We'll have links to that in the show notes as well. And again, Barret, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
It's great being here. Thank you, Dave.
Again, thank you so much for being here, and thank you to our guest for being part of Living the Next Chapter. Make sure you go like, follow, share this episode to support your fellow authors. And a reminder to always leave a review every time you buy a book from your favorite author. It means so much to them. It's your words back to the author on why this book means something to you. That's one responsibility that we have as readers, to support our authors by leaving great reviews. I know you've probably forgotten more than you've remembered to leave reviews. So my little ask of you here as we're exiting out of the episode, to go back, go grab that stack of books behind you, put them on your desk, and go to the websites where you purchase these books and leave a review now. I know you bought the book years ago. Go leave a review today. Let the author know how much you love their book. Give really detailed information about why you love this book so much. Let's celebrate our authors by leaving a great review. And thank you for listening to Living the Next Chapter. Thank you for being here. See you next time.